Hey everybody, welcome to the Founders Mentality. I'm your host, Josh Feedy. I have a very special guest from out of town joining me today that I was really excited to pull into my studio. So this is an incredibly impromptu meeting here. We did not have this on the calendar. We were not planning on doing this. And if you listen to my last episode, you know I was planning on taking a couple weeks off, but I decided he's in town. We might as well do this, and I wanted everybody to meet him. So everybody, help me welcome Nick Hughes from Founders Live to the podcast. Thanks for coming, Nick.
Yeah, thank you, Josh.
So, Nick, give us a really quick background. Who are you? What are you up to? And why are you here in Minnesota today?
Yeah, it's all good questions.
Yeah.
So I'm founder of Founders Live.
Yep.
And founder and CEO, and Founders Live is a global platform for entrepreneurship and startups.
Yep.
You're familiar.
Yes.
You're not only a member of it, but you've appeared a couple times on
We won.
camera. And you won.
Yes.
So you've had not only been on Founders Live in videos, but you also pitched it.
That's right.
One of our events.
Yeah.
But we are, as a global platform for entrepreneurship, we not only have an online component that brings people together and educates, informs and inspires, but we also have events that are local celebrations of entrepreneurship. They're gatherings in cities and they're pitch competitions, such as you did here in Minneapolis. We're now in about 40 cities globally.
Wow.
And that would be about 14 countries. Yeah. Including, countries in Africa. We're spreading around Africa. We're starting to spread around Europe.
Yep.
And, really, we're just really looking to build out an entire platform to service early stage entrepreneurs, to bring them information, connect them around the world, and hopefully move them forward as a business.
Yeah. Yeah. No, this is great. I mean, I've been a big fan of what you've been up to now for, I think I first discovered what you were doing maybe 8 months ago now. And I immediately reached out to you directly because I wanted to know more, what is this? Like, I just saw this come through Minnesota. This is really interesting to me. I'm very passionate about startups and the local ecosystem, but seeing something like that coming from outside of Minnesota that still helps support Minnesota, I just wanted to know what are your plans with this? How are you growing this, right? And I was working for Foundry at the time, and I immediately said, look, we love talking to startups. How can we produce some materials that we can get in front of your audience? And you were very generous with us at that time and let us produce 6 videos, I think, that we could put up on your channel, which was amazing. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
But absolutely, while you were letting me know that you were planning this tour, I said, you got to come to Minnesota, man. Right? There's a very small window where you have to come here, but you have to come here when it's nice. Yeah. Right? And at first, full disclosure, Minnesota was not on your landing pad plans, right? But I think I did a good job of selling you on it. And so I'm glad you're here.
You did a good job.
And so we're going to be doing, you're going to be doing an event at the end of the month. Why don't you talk about that real quickly, just so we can try to drum up some people to show up here at WeWork?
Yeah, I'll describe and talk about the event that's going to happen later on this month, and then we'll go back and I'll tell you a little bit about the journey and the tour.
Absolutely.
I think this comes into the founder mentality and all that.
Yeah.
But on June 27th, which is a Thursday, at WeWork Uptown, which we're sitting in right now, we will have our next Founders Live Minneapolis event. And that will be starting at 6 p.m., last till about 8:30. And that's going to be a really fun gathering. I will be in attendance. I will actually give a little bit of an overview and a little more detail on what Founders Live is and why we're spreading around the world. But we will then have 5 early stage companies that will also have their chance to give a 99-second pitch. So each one has 99 seconds to pitch. Then there's 4 minutes of Q&A with the audience. And after that whole process of 5 companies pitching and questions, then the crowd will vote on which one they thought was the best. So there will be a winner of the night, and really excited about that. So it's going to be a great gathering. We expect a really great crowd. And anyone that's listening or watching, definitely encourage you to show up and come say hi and have a couple drinks on us.
Yeah, so I'm going to break format. I'm going to be releasing this one like immediately, right? So we can try to drive the word of this. But yeah, for anyone listening to this podcast, that date has already passed maybe for you. I still thought it would be good to understand kind of what this is all about, right? So thank you for kind of explaining what startups actually get out of this experience, right? So it's a very quick pitch, right? And I think what I find is the beauty of what you're doing with Founders Live is that you're really pushing these startups to figure out what is their quick pitch. Because there's nothing more important than being able to spit out what your company does and what the value is you bring in under a minute and a half.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
Well, what's amazing is, the backstory is, so I started this about 5 years ago in Seattle, and it was actually just, I put on a first event and was like, hey, let's get people together. Let's have a good time. Let's have some food and drink. Let's have a pitch competition. And I pulled out of thin air, honestly. I remember being like, it'll be 90, how about 99 seconds of time, you know? Okay. And then how about, 4 minutes of Q&A with the audience. And then, we don't like panel judges. We're going to have the crowd vote on a winner. And this was in March of 2014. That was the very first event, and it was great. People loved it. Success, definitely. And then I decided, like, oh, hey, why don't we just keep having this every month? And so, basically since then, every month I've been in front of a crowd and we'll hold this event. And so in Seattle, we've, held it for like 5 years, but I did that for like 2 years. And I think through the process, what we learned is a couple things. Number one, the preparation of compiling your 99-second pitch. What do I include? And what do I leave out? What is the essence of what I'm building so that I can essentially let that audience know why we're important, why we're unique, and why they need to follow us. And that is, of course, you put a founder on stage, they're going to talk for an hour. But if but if you give them a limit, hey, you need to figure what you're saying out in, give us a 99-second pitch. It really challenges them to distill what they're working on. And through that process, as you experience, you kind of have insights on, that's actually what we're building. And, this is what's resonating with the audience, or, these are the questions that they asked. So the process of preparing, the process of getting in front of maybe hundreds of people and pitching is not easy. Receiving the feedback, and lastly, the voting. So look, you either win or you don't. And, it's a very collegial experience, but it's also competitive in some ways. And so I think the feedback, this is also why we have, the crowd vote versus judges. Because business is wisdom of the crowd. The market's going to tell you you're successful or not. So we wanted to formulate it and say, we want to mirror that and say, okay, you're either going to get enough in, of a volume of votes, or you're not. So this whole thing, it's been really great. And it's really amazing, dude. And it changed my life when I started to realize and watch the streams from like people in Africa that I've never met. That their culture is drastically different than mine. And they're doing the same thing, and they're freaking loving it. And it's changing their culture, and it's changing the entrepreneurs in those countries. That's why I know it's a big deal.
No, it's awesome. It's awesome. I mean, and I've always seen entrepreneurship as the great equalizer, right? I do not care about people's backstory. I don't care about where they went to college. I don't care about where they came from.
Agreed.
Right? If we are innovating and creating, we are all in the same ship as far as I'm concerned, right? And I think that helping bring that community to a worldwide audience, that's very impressive. Real quick, how many years have you been doing this now?
So everything started about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And then I incorporated in 2016 was when I really stepped back and realized, like, okay, there's something here actually that can reach a global audience. You're right. When I realized, like, in the end, my insight was there is talent everywhere in the world. I don't care what country or what city you're talking about, but the opportunities aren't evenly distributed. So there's people in countries on every continent in the world, in cities in the United States, that do not have the opportunities that someone might have in Seattle or in New York or in Silicon Valley or even Minneapolis for that matter. So I just believe that the solution is, creating a central platform and a community, also bringing the information to them, connecting them with people around the world, whether those are other entrepreneurs or investors or corporations, and then giving them a global distribution opportunity. I think it just changes the game. So, that was my big insight in 2016.
So real quick, and then I got another question for you, but for any founders that are listening to this, if they haven't been in a Founders Live pitch contest, I would highly recommend it. It was a really good lesson for myself. But what I would also say is, even if you don't have any interest in that, if you don't have any interest in getting on stage right now and doing that, try to do exactly what Nick is encouraging you to do, which is bring your message into a 99-second pitch, right? And obviously with the goal of people asking questions when you're done. I mean, the whole way this is formatted is exactly the way you want this to go when you're talking to potential new hires, when you're talking to potential investors, when you're talking to your wife or husband's friend who asks what you do for a living, right? Like, you just want to be able to give them enough information that they understand enough to ask educated questions, right? And then let those questions turn your 99-second pitch into a 10-minute pitch by answering their questions. Right?
I'll even go further on that. I think the 99-second is the kind of medium. Which I think if you work on that one, you're gonna get your 10-second. You know, like the cocktail or the barbecue. Like someone's like, "What do you do?" Which is the worst question. But when you get that, being able to have like the very, I wouldn't say general, but the very, I do X, Y, Z. You know. I create a sales tool for enterprise companies. And when you say that, people are either going to say, "Oh, and then they'll move on. Or they're going to be like, "Well, what do you mean?
Tell me more."
And then you can go into that 99-second pitch, which is like a lot more in depth. And then if they're like, as an investor or whatever, they're very interested. And so you can have that 10 to 20 minute detailed financial analysis, like market size and customer segment and competitive nature. Like that's the 10 to 20 minute. So I think when you look at 3 different segments, the very short one, the 1.5 to 2 minutes, and then the 10 to 20 minutes. So what you're in the process of doing right now is really interesting to me. I mean, number one, I can't believe you actually did it, right? You literally packed up, you left your home. How many months ago did you leave now? Like 6 months.
6 months ago, you left your home. I think I saw a LinkedIn post that maybe you had headed home real quick for something, but otherwise you've been completely gone. So that's amazing. But essentially what you are doing right now is an insanely in-depth customer exploration. Right? I mean, you are literally going to your events, you're meeting with the community leaders, because that's the way this is structured. If we haven't, I don't think we touched on that. There are community leaders in every different area that kind of lead Founders Live. You still basically own Seattle, is kind of my understanding, right? But outside of Seattle, it's just it's a concept that you're essentially franchising out, right? So that other leaders at its core can just lead that in those different states. But now you're heading out, you're meeting with them, you're engaging with the crowds. Like, what has been the number one learning that you've taken away from the places you've stopped so far?
Oh man, that's a really difficult question.
You can give me 3 takeaways then.
Oh man, I mean, look, let's take a step back. So I made a decision in December to go on a year-long world tour. Traveling to various Founders Live cities. So these are cities that we're already in. That and the decision was really around, I had a relationship end, and so when you have a life kind of altering situation, I was moving out, and so I was really looking at like, what should I do for the night? Like, where am I going to live? I could live in Seattle, or I know people in like 40 cities around the world, if not more. And I realized, like,
they all have couches.
They all have couches. It's easy. I could build this thing from anywhere. And actually, you're right. The insight was actually more like, no, I need to get as close to this community, these people, and our users and customers as possible. And it is a customer discovery journey. And so, I mapped out my trip. It involves, I would say 9 or 10 areas in the United States, and then, various countries, Africa, Asia, and South America right now. And this is month 6. I have traveled about 11,000 miles.
Wow.
Both on a plane, on wheels. For about 2 months there, we were rolling in a bus, and actually a tour bus that I had connected with a mutual contact of mine, and him and I just drove. We drove almost 5,000 miles through the Southwest. And I would say my biggest lesson is, dude, it's crazy. It's the same response in every city. When you go and actually spend time with your customers and users, and you observe how they are interacting or experiencing your product. It's the same. Clearly, like you mentioned, our events are ran by individuals, or what we call ambassadors, our city leaders. And so their energy and their leadership does influence the event on some way.
It has to.
And obviously when I'm there, it influences that as well. But at the same time, like the response, people are like, this is awesome. Like, this is so great. And it, just the response is very, very similar to what it was in Seattle. Secondly, in terms of personal lesson is that, there are so many things in your life that you take for granted because you live in the same place. You get up and do the same things almost every day. You know where your coffee is. You know, like, what your morning routine is. I have totally pulled the rug out of myself, from under myself, purposely putting myself in a more difficult and challenging scenarios. And I'm learning a ton about myself, like how I respond, how I navigate when you don't know what's going on. Like travel, like I never did that. I never like traveled in college or went to Europe or whatever. So this is my way to like just absolutely push myself to a limit that I think I never would have thought. And more importantly, like I kind of feel like I'm running a marathon, which is like, very, very few people. Like who announces a world tour? Who announces that I'm going to be gone for almost a year? Like I'm living out of 2 bags. Like I'm, just navigating the world, and it's been really amazing. So just the flexibility and adaptability has really, I've proven to myself that I can do way more than I thought. And then lastly, I would say the last thing is, there was a very personal aspect to this from a relationship standpoint. And so, I'm just like really putting myself in a whole different environment and, really learning a lot more about myself and actually figuring out how far this vision goes. And I can tell you that since I left Seattle, which was December, things have changed, and this company is going to be very large. There's actually a possible TV show coming out of this. Like if you think about kind of an Anthony Bourdain type of style.
Love it.
So that only came about when I went on this tour, and now people are reaching out to me from like Hollywood and LA and New York, and they're like, this is awesome. Like we should. So
I love that.
Think about that.
That makes perfect sense to me. It's a traveling Shark Tank.
Exactly.
I mean, of sorts, right? I absolutely love that. If you do it, please keep it in the vein of Anthony Bourdain, because I love the way that was produced. I love the way that was shot. I love how genuine that was. And okay, so that's crazy though, because I just assumed that you making this decision, that you were a very worldly, traveled individual, like that this was just something like you were just going to reach into your closet and grab your bag that you already have ready to go that carries everything you possibly need, and you know what you're doing. You didn't know what you were doing. Like this wasn't something that was part of you.
No, dude, look, here's what happened. My girlfriend and I were together almost 5 years. Everything was kind of going well. And then, I mean, not to get into too much detail, but my life started to change. And so basically last fall, into the end of the year, we really decided like it's time to be done. So my life tremendously changed between Thanksgiving and Christmas. And when I realized that it was drastically changing, I was moving out. I literally moved my stuff out like December 15th. It was terrible. And I just said, the window just went. And I just jumped this way. So put all my stuff in storage, packed 2 bags. And no, I have not really traveled. And so this was, I wouldn't say it was totally opposite of what I normally would do, but it was like, I just like everything opened up and I've said this so many times where like, there are certain times in your life when opportunities just hit you. And if you take them, your life will totally change. Like for the better.
No, this is,
it just was like,
I love it.
And so, and so I'll tell you right now that this is the lifestyle that I am very attracted to for quite a long time now. I'm not saying I'm going to be on the road all the time, but if we do end up, if this becomes a show, clearly half the year I'll be traveling and filming, and then half the year hopefully I'll still be in Seattle and hang out. But yes, like it's crazy how that all developed.
So watch for the Founders Live Airstream to be rolling into a city near you. And this is really, this is awesome talking about this right now, because in a couple months, I'm going to be having a guest on. Her name is Shayla. And I'm blanking on the name, but I believe that what she calls her YouTube channel is Life on a One-Way. And she has been making money off of traveling for the last 3-4 years now. Literally, she'll just buy an airplane ticket, fly off to some foreign land, live there, document it herself, and she makes money off of sponsorships and YouTube views.
Wow.
And for me, what you're talking about and what she talks about is terrifying to me, because I am absolutely a creature of habit.
Yeah.
If you can't tell from the office that I put together, I'm one of those guys that I can't even move into a WeWork and use their furniture. I need to bring the things that make me comfortable with me into even a place that provides desks.
Yeah.
Right? I can't imagine not retiring to my house at the end of the day, whatever time my day ends, right? I need my couch. I need my TV. I need the channels.
Yeah.
I need those things. So, I mean, that's got to be really crazy.
Well, it is. It's interesting. And look, there's two sides to it. I would agree that I miss just the couch, right? Just and I don't lounge on the couch too much, but just falling over and just chilling for a couple hours.
Right.
There is a sense of routine, but part of it, dude, is I was too much into that last. I sensed that I was too much into that.
Right.
And I actually didn't like it. And I'm realizing that I am a little more of a random person than a habitual person.
Right.
And it's just, look, it's a season of my life, and I don't have kids.
Yep.
I know you have two, I believe.
I can't do what you're doing.
So
it's not going to happen.
There's certain characteristics that come with, and that's what I realized.
Right.
When this all happened, I was like, I looked at the list and I was like, oh my God, I'm not really tied into anything except the company. And, again, this is also a journey of, what does entrepreneurship look like in the pockets of the country and various corners of the world.
Right.
And that to me is, that's my journey. That's exactly what I want to discover.
Yep.
And I will look back at this 2019, 2020 will be the absolute inflection point in my life and the company.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's what you're doing. It's a very entrepreneurial thing, right? Yeah. I mean, you're essentially jumping off. It's the old saying, right? You're jumping off a cliff and building a plane on the way down. It's a very entrepreneurial thing. And what I would just hope that other would-be entrepreneurs listening to the podcast are taking to heart here is your jumping off a cliff might be traveling the world and becoming more worldly and learning more things and gaining more knowledge before you move forward. It might be starting your first business.
Yeah.
Your jumping off the cliff might be a handful of different things, right? But at the end of the day, sometimes you just need to put yourself in an uncomfortable position to get to the place that you ultimately want to go. It's going to be fascinating to see what comes out of this trip. And, the TV potential or opportunities coming out of it right from that's amazing, right? Yep. I mean, that might be the thing that was just waiting to happen from this business for the last 5 years that you would have never discovered until you just said, enough is enough.
Yeah.
I'm jumping out of my comfort zone.
And, the lesson that I've learned, let's go back to that question. Do what scares you.
Yeah.
Because within reason, but doing what is a little fearful or scared, that makes you fearful or scared, that's why it's telling you something. It's saying, if you get out of your comfort zone, you're actually going to move forward and you're going to discover something about yourself and the world that you didn't know before.
Yep.
And that's that internal signal. And so I've said this in every city I'm in, but just if you do something, and the lesson here is, figure out what seems to be your breaking point or your barrier right now.
Yep.
And there's a couple steps past that.
Yep.
That if you take those, it will totally move yourself and your business forward.
Yep.
And that's the biggest thing I've learned in this journey thus far.
I love that. That right there is absolutely incredible. Okay. Yeah, I can see so many ways I could apply that, to myself and to some of the founders that I advise and speak with every single day, right? Okay, so real quick here, because I try to keep these these episodes under 30 minutes, and we're getting close to that. But I don't want to just talk about Founders Live. I want to talk about other things that you've been a founder of. Like, what got you to the point that you even wanted to create this event focused around founders and startups?
Yeah, good question. So my first real entrepreneurial experience, as a founder, was in 2011. Okay. I had before that, I had kind of played startup and, was for like a handful of years, like half in, half not. But I quit my job in 2011 and that was summer. And by fall of 2011, I was CEO and co-founder of a mobile payments company.
Okay.
It was called Seconds, and we were building out, very fast, quick mobile payments between customer and merchant. Yep. So more kind of enterprise focused, not like, Venmo or anything.
Right.
But at that time, that's when, Square, Venmo, Level Up, if you remember that, was really starting to take shape. And so long story short, we tried and did not go.
Right.
And honestly, dude, it was the most challenging, tough time in my life. Basically kind of nosedived.
Yep.
Didn't pay myself for like a year and a half, and was, had to move out, or all the roommates were moving out of the place we were living in. So at the time, like, I ended up moving in with my sister and her family, and just was like taking a ferry across the water by Seattle. And like, dude, I was like, my daily allowance was like $5 to like have a burger and hopefully like live.
Right.
It was shitty, man. It was not fun. And so through that experience, that was like 2011 to 2013.
Yep.
And I realized, like, dude, like, I wish there was like a community of people that we could share experiences. Yep. People don't like to talk about their failures outwardly. Yeah. I wish there was like, what I do next, hey, here's like some help. Here's like the path, or at least the platform that you could, learn from others or understand what's next, or, okay, how to incorporate your company, or how do I talk to a lawyer, or how do I, create this first version of my product.
Right.
There was none.
Right.
So it only in hindsight, realizing that I felt very lonely. Yeah. I started to deal with some depression, which is not normal, but like when you kind of outwardly fail, like that's not fun.
Nope.
And
not uncommon for startup founders. No.
Yeah. So I would say in about 2013, 2014, I just stepped back and was like, hey, let's like put on this event and like, let's bring people together. So from day one, it was all about community in one way, shape, or form. And so I think, that drastically impacted by failing and looking at what aspect of the entrepreneurial journey I hated.
Yeah.
That's greatly influenced what we've built.
I love it. And that is the whole reason I started this podcast as well, right? I mean, this has nothing to do with my company. I don't talk about my company necessarily on this podcast. That's the reason I created this as well, though, because we have a very similar background. My first company did the same thing, right? It was a lot of fun till it wasn't, is kind of my favorite thing to say. But the part where it wasn't was an absolute fiery crash of devastation and fear and like, what next, right?
Yeah.
Like, what bridge should I start plotting out to try to move my family in underneath, right?
Totally.
Like, it was terrifying. And I want people to understand the reality of what it is to go down this road, because it is not. Right now, we're talking about something very glamorous. People that are listening are going, really? You're just traveling all over the place? It sounds. Who wouldn't want to do that? There's probably going to be 20 people that quit their jobs after they listen to this, right? We don't want them to do that.
No.
Right? I mean, it should be a very conscious thing, right? And it made sense for you, and it makes sense for what you're doing right now. But also, when it comes to failure, and one of my favorite business advice people right now, funny or not, is Will Smith. Will Smith, that man puts out some videos right now that just are impactful as can be. But I just saw one the other day. It was an older video, but I just saw it the other day where he was talking about failing forward. Yeah. Right? Not even failing forward. He calls it falling forward, right? So you're not failing. You're falling forward. You're moving into that next thing. And yes, I mean, we need to be more open about the failures that we've had, because the failures that we've had make all the difference when we're trying to make the next decision and we're falling forward into what is going to be the next big thing that we do, right? And figuring out what we're even here for, right? Okay, it's been awesome. It's been awesome having you on here. I'm going to cut you off. I'm going to cut the cameras off. Now we're just going to have a real conversation. I thank you for humoring me and literally just coming into my office for what was supposed to be a meeting, and now we're recording it.
This has been great, and I hope to see everyone on the 27th.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great here at WeWork, right on the 4th floor. It's free to attend, and you're going to have 5 companies pitching it out, so that's going to be really awesome. It'll be live broadcast, so anyone listening outside of Minnesota can look right on the Facebook stream, right, and be able to check it out. Nick, if there's anybody listening that wants to get in contact with you, what's your preferred method of communication?
You can find me on LinkedIn.
Okay.
You can find me on founderslive.com.
Yep.
You can find me on, less on Facebook and Instagram just because I usually don't go there as much, but in Twitter as well. I'm on Twitter as well. So any general social platform, just search my name. You should find me.
Yeah, word to the wise, best way to, if you really want to talk to Nick, just join the Founders Live network because you're very active on your own network, obviously.
Send me a message, I'll definitely respond.
You will respond almost immediately.
But, hey, look, I'm pretty liberal too on the email. Like it's nick@founderslive.com. It's pretty simple. Send me an email, say hi, and love to chat.
Thanks so much for being on the show. This was an interesting perspective to bring to my audience. I really appreciate that. And the next guest on the Founders Mentality is going to be Rally Registry. I really am really excited to have them on the show. That'll be when I'm in my new office space, so it'll look a little different if you're watching the video, but hopefully you like what you see there. But I'll talk to everybody soon, and have a great day. Bye.